And comparison will have you looking crazy, taking notes on someone like you're going to get a degree in their life. And now you done completely abandoned your own. Let's talk about it. When we think about comparison, often I think we go straight to envy. Like, they have what I want. They're doing what I want to do. They are who I want to be. And while I think we end there, most of the times when I think back to it, I think it starts from an honest place of admiration, right? You look at someone and they are doing something that you admire and they're doing it well. And you think to yourself, wow, I want to learn from them. I want to be like them. I think back to when I started my blog in 2012, and there weren't a lot of people in that space at the time, but the girls that were dominating it, I mean, I was obsessed. I was always going on their websites. The pictures were absolutely gorgeous. The writing was top tier quality. The website design was amazing. Like, I was locked in. I was on the newsletter. I didn't want to miss a beat because they had really given us the blueprint to what success looked like. And so it started from a place of me really admiring what these girls were doing. And slowly it turned into me trying to see how I measured up. I didn't want to post on my blog if it didn't seem as good as what they had posted. I would write something and then read something that they would write and then immediately feel bad about the things I produced. And that is the silent killer that comparison brings to the table, is that ultimately, if you only watch someone else's life, you will slowly stop living yours. And I am proof, and you probably have some receipts of your own where you have spent so much time looking at what someone else is doing. And so you pause in your head because you're overthinking your ideas. You don't move forward with the things that you want to do. You no longer feel good enough. And not only are you behind them, but you are stuck. You're not even making any progress. And what ends up happening is that gap between where you are and who you want to be, it grows even wider. As if you weren't panini pressed already about not being able to keep up. Now you're so far behind, and then that just doubles down on how you already feel about yourself. It eats away at your confidence, it eats away at your joy, and you no longer want to show up because you don't feel qualified. And the crazy part is you are qualified and you are very capable. You have just stopped executing because you're too busy watching someone else. And so in order to get over that, the first thing you have to do, as obvious as it sounds, is you have to limit how much of someone else's life you're consuming. And I don't know about you, but I had it real bad. As soon as I would wake up in the morning, I was already scrolling on that phone, trying to get that dopamine hit and see what everyone else was up to. But if that's an issue that you have got to lock that down first. You have to start creating the life you want and stop consuming so much of what other people are doing. So limiting access to other people's lives, that's already going to help eliminate a lot of the pressure that you feel. But you're probably still going to find yourself occasionally re-downloading those apps, going back on those pages and just trying to feel your heartburn for whatever reason. But if you find yourself in that place, a good thing to do is really just try to take it as information or inspiration and not so much of an identity check. The girls don't gatekeep anymore. People will share with you exactly what they're doing, where they're going, what they're trying. And so use that information to build the life that you want. But don't tie it to your identity and feel like you're somehow behind or not as good or incapable simply because someone is doing something that you are not yet. And I say yet because I think a lot of times we get so caught up in running with someone else in their pace that we forget that, like, God has already set the pace for our race. In the Bible, I'm going to have to find a verse, but in the Bible, it just talks about getting the endurance to run your own race. And I think that's so important to think about because God has given all of us our own race, our own assignment, our own talents, our own tools, and our own timelines. And we try to keep up with what other people are doing. And a lot of times God has not called you to do that thing. And if he has, he probably has not called you to do it identically to the person that you're looking at. So yeah, you can pull some inspiration from them, but you have to anchor your obedience and where God will have you go and the purpose that he has for your life. And last week I shared with you that I ran a half marathon not too long ago, and I'll run other races throughout the year. And a little brain trick that I will do is If I find myself like slowing down or getting tired, I will pick a person who has a similar pace and I will say, I'm gonna lock in on this person and I'm just gonna keep up with them. I'm gonna move when they move and they're gonna carry me to the finish line. But what has happened is I will pick someone who seemingly has the same pace as me, but then they start picking it up. And here I go trying to keep up with them. And when we get to the finish line, they are just cool as a cucumber and I'm breathing heavy and I'm bent over and I'm tired and I'm out of breath and I'm burnt out and I can't talk and my husband, give me some water. And yeah, and that is exactly what we look like in the race of life, right? Because this person has prepared their legs, their lungs, their skills, their resources to do what they're doing the way they're doing it. And here we are trying to keep up. They're dragging us because we're trying to keep up with a pace we have not prepared for, we haven't trained for. And so we're at max capacity, and what comes very easily and naturally for them, it's a challenge for you. And it's not because you're incapable, it just means you need a little bit more time before you get there. So what a lot of us do in the heat of exhaustion of trying to keep up is we just, they're just better than me. I don't know. I'll never be that good. I'm not capable. I can't do it. It's just too much. You know, they're just built differently. And, you know, girl like me, now I told y'all I'm competitive. I'm looking like, okay, baby, game on. I'm inspired now. I gotta go harder. I gotta go back to the lab and I gotta work on these legs and these lungs and get it together. So next time it's not such a challenge for me. You have to stay in your lane and you have to run your race and you have to be confident that eventually you will get there. And the way you do that is by working on the thing you want to grow in. We sit here and we look at other people who are thriving in an area that we're too afraid to make a step in. Or we feel like we have to do it their way or a certain way to make it happen. But the beautiful thing about God is He can do the same thing 1,000,001 ways. So when I see beautiful things happening for other people, it just gives me hope that it can really happen for me. And like we talked about last week, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to give that to God. I'm going to let Him work it out, because if that's something He wants me to have, it's already mine. I don't got to even do too much. And that's why it's so important that you spend time executing on the things God called you to do, because the more time you spend working, the less time you have to watch. And you can start creating the life that you want because it is so within your reach. And on top of that, it's important that we put into perspective the season of life that we're in when we're comparing ourselves. I like to think of my life as like a pie or a pizza, and each slice represents an area, a role or responsibility in my life. The more time and energy that I commit to it, the bigger the slice of the pie. And so I told you guys I was running a half marathon. When I was training for that, fitness was a big chunk of my entire pie, right? But now that that's over, that has shrunk, and a bigger piece of the pie is now content creation. Now imagine there is someone else who's preparing to run a race tomorrow. Their fitness level is going to be better than mine today because that is not where my focus is. But it's okay because that's also not where my season is. I am working on something else right now. And I think a lot of times when you watch other people's lives, you get confused on A, what season you're in, and B, what's important to you. You start reshuffling your pie based on what they tell you is important. And then you abandon what matters and what you care about because you're chasing someone else's dream. So I really challenge you to sit down and make sure that what you think you want is really what you want. Because social media has a way of feeding us things and making us feel like those ideas and thoughts are our own. And it's so sneaky because they'll say something like, if your man didn't give you a BMW for Christmas, does he even love you? And now here you go, A, wanting a BMW, not even a car you were thinking about, and 2, looking at your husband upside his head because why you didn't give me a car? 2 things that didn't even matter to you, but now they do. And enough of that over time starts to make you feel like your life is not a great one. And that's why it's so important that we don't consume more than we create. Get off of social media, go touch grass, as the kids say, so that you can start to enjoy your life. I tell anybody, if you only worry about your life, you'll realize it's the most beautiful thing ever. Because when you're not looking at what other people are doing, you can just appreciate what you have. And of course, there are areas for improvement for all of us, but it doesn't have to be on the basis of what someone else said. And that's why you have to sit with your own thoughts and identify what's meaningful for you and move in that direction. Before we close, I just want to remind you that comparison is the thief of joy. But once you start to execute and work on the things that matter to you, that's how you start to heal. So this week, I challenge you, take 24 hours and just completely disconnect and start working on something that matters to you. Start drafting the outline to your book, a strategy for your business, a plan for your content, activities for your kid, whatever the area, start building up some momentum there. If anything in this video resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love for you to be a part of the community. We are growing together week over week, and I am proud of the momentum that I have, comparison and all, child. I'm going to be praying that you have a beautiful week, and I'm going to talk to you next week. Until then, bye.